The Comanche woman had not eaten in 2 days, but she did not feel the hunger as sharply as she felt the fear. The fear was for her daughter, whose small hand clutched her own as they crossed the open plains. The child's steps were slow and uncertain, her breathing shallow, every movement a struggle. The land had turned against them. No game, no roots, no mercy. The woman had given the last of her dried meat to the girl that morning, knowing it would not be enough. Still, she walked, because stopping meant death. When the ranch appeared on the horizon, it felt unreal, like a trick of the sun. A wooden fence cut across the land, and beyond it stood a solid house with smoke curling from its chimney. Food, warmth, life. The woman hesitated at the gate, her pride rising like a final defense. She had been raised to endure pain without begging, to die before surrendering herself. But her daughter stumbled and fell to her knees in the dust, too weak to cry. In that moment, pride became meaningless. The rancher noticed them from the porch. He had been mending tack when he saw the figures approaching, thin, slow, worn down by the land itself. His first instinct was caution. Comanche meant trouble, the townsfolk always said. But as they came closer, he saw no weapons, no threat. Only a woman standing straighter than her body allowed, and a child who looked as though a strong wind might carry her away. The woman stepped forward and lowered her gaze, not in submission but in restraint. Her English was rough, shaped by necessity rather than learning. She told him they were hungry. Then, after a long pause, she offered what she believed he would want. She would work. She would stay. She would give herself to him if he fed her daughter. The words tasted bitter, but she forced them out, because a living child was worth more than her shame. The rancher did not answer. He looked past her, down at the girl sitting in the dirt, her eyes fixed on nothing, her body swaying slightly. Something inside him tightened, a memory of his own mother during a hard winter when neighbors had turned away. Without a word, he turned and went inside the house. The woman's heart pounded. She had seen this before, men deciding her fate in silence. She pulled her daughter closer, ready for whatever came next. When the rancher returned, he carried a bowl filled to the brim with stew, the steam rising thick and rich. He set it down in front of the child, then placed bread beside it. No demands, no look of ownership. "Eat," he said simply. The girl looked up at her mother, waiting. The woman nodded, and as her daughter ate, tears slid silently down her face, not from weakness, but from the shock of kindness she had not dared hope for. Morning came softly to the ranch, carried in on cool air and the distant lowing of cattle. The Comanche woman awoke before the sun, her body stiff from exhaustion but her mind alert. For the first time in many days, her daughter slept deeply beside her, her breathing steady and unbroken by hunger. The woman watched her for a long moment, committing the sight to memory, as if fearing it might vanish when she stood. She rose quietly and stepped outside the barn. The ranch was already awake in small ways, the creak of wood, the smell of coffee drifting from the house, the promise of food lingering in the air. Gratitude pressed heavy in her chest, but it did not weaken her. Among her people, gratitude was shown through action, not words. She began to work. She hauled water from the well, her arms trembling but steady. She swept the barn floor, repaired torn sacks, and gathered scattered tools, moving with practiced efficiency. When the rancher appeared and saw what she was doing, he frowned slightly and told her she did not have to earn the food. She met his eyes and shook her head. Her voice was calm when she answered that she was not paying him. She was standing on her own feet again. The rancher watched her differently after that. He had expected fear or clinging dependence. Instead, he saw pride shaped by hardship, strength sharpened by loss. He brought them breakfast, eggs, bread, milk, and sat a short distance away, giving them space. The girl ate slowly this time, no longer desperate, her eyes brightening with each bite. She smiled, a small, fragile thing, and the rancher felt an unexpected warmth spread through him. Days passed, and the rhythm of the ranch began to reshape their lives. The woman learned the routines quickly, her hands adapting to unfamiliar tools. She spoke little, but when she did, her words were thoughtful, careful. At night, she told her daughter stories in their own language, soft and musical, stories of rivers, horses, and a people who endured. The rancher listened from outside the barn, understanding none of the words but feeling their meaning all the same. Trust did not come easily to the woman. She slept lightly, always aware of her surroundings, always prepared to run. Kindness, she knew, could turn without warning. Yet each day the rancher remained the same, quiet, respectful, never crossing the line she had drawn with her silence and her strength. He asked nothing beyond what she freely gave. As the girl regained her strength, she began to follow the rancher's dog, laughing when it wagged its tail or licked her hands. Laughter returned to the barn like a long-lost friend. The woman watched these moments with cautious hope, her heart slowly uncoiling. She had come to the ranch expecting to lose herself to save her child. Instead, she found something unfamiliar and dangerous. In its own way, a place where survival did not require surrender, and where dignity was allowed to remain intact. The first sign of trouble came on the wind, carried by the sound of hooves long before riders appeared. The Comanche woman felt it in her bones as she stood near the barn, shelling dried corn while her daughter played nearby. She straightened, her eyes narrowing toward the horizon. The rancher noticed the change in her posture and followed her gaze, spotting the dust rising in the distance. Visitors were rare and never welcome without warning. 3 men rode up, their laughter loud and careless. They did not dismount at once, only stared, their eyes lingering where they should not. One of them smirked and made a comment about strays and savages, his tone sharp with contempt. The woman remained still, placing herself subtly in front of her daughter. Her hands were empty, but her stance spoke of readiness, of a life lived under constant threat. The rancher stepped forward before the men could say more. His voice was steady as he told them they were on private land and had no business there. The riders scoffed, claiming curiosity, claiming concern. They asked why he was harboring Comanche, why he would waste food on those who were meant to disappear. Their words were meant to provoke, to test how far they could go. The rancher did not raise his voice. He did not need to. He told them the woman and child were under his protection, and that was the end of the matter. Silence stretched thin and dangerous as the men weighed their options. At last, with a final sneer, they turned their horses and rode off, leaving behind trampled grass and the echo of threats not fully spoken. Only when they were gone did the woman release the breath she had been holding. That night she spoke more than she ever had before. By the light of a small lantern, she told the rancher who she was, where she came from, and what she had lost. She spoke of her husband, killed during a raid, and of the long journey that followed, driven by hunger and fear. Her voice did not break. The breaking had already been done. The rancher listened without interruption. When she finished, he nodded once as if sealing something unspoken between them. He told her she did not owe him anything, not her body, not her loyalty, not her past. She and her daughter could stay as long as they wished or leave when they were ready. Days turned into weeks. The girl grew stronger, her laughter ringing across the yard as she ran with the dog and helped gather eggs. The woman's hands grew steady again, her eyes less haunted. The ranch itself seemed to soften, as if the land recognized their presence and approved. She had once believed survival demanded sacrifice beyond endurance. Now she understood that another kind of strength existed, the courage to accept kindness without losing oneself. And in that quiet understanding, a new future began to take shape, fragile but real, rooted not in desperation but in trust.